Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Double 18 Podcast Live Stream Edition. I'm your host, Stephen Nagishi, and we apologize we couldn't do the one from last week. Obviously, it was Mother's Day, and Ken spends some time with his sister, and we decided to postpone it, and we're very, very happy to do this again, as always, with my co-host. Announcing the associate editor, Ken Fang. Ken, how are you tonight?
Good to be on with you, Stephen. Good to be back with you.
Ken, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Stephen?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, good to be on with
I
you.
can. Yeah.
Okay. Good to be back with you. And we're some things to talk about, of course. Some things happened over the last 2 weeks, which we'll discuss. And, of course, the NHL Playoffs, Game 7 tonight. There was a Game 7 in the NBA earlier today, and the PGA Championship just finished. So a lot of stuff to talk about, especially also the NFL schedule was released over the last week, too. So we'll talk all about that.
Yeah. So let's get to the finals conversation and also the NHL as well. Let's start with the NBA. The Nuggets and the Thunder played their Game 7 tonight, and this afternoon, I should say. And it was a lopsided contest. Thunder beat the Nuggets to finish them off in Game 7. It was a very competitive game. I should say it was a very competitive series back and forth. For a while, and Thunder just finally was able to put the Nuggets away, and Aaron Gordon made his return to Game 7 despite the grade 2 hamstring injury, but it just wasn't enough, unfortunately, for Thunder to finally advance to the Western Conference Final, where they will the Minnesota, who finished off the Golden State Warriors in 5 games. So they're a bit rested, but Thunder, with their home field advantage, they will welcome the Timberwolves. I believe it's on Tuesday, correct?
Yeah, Tuesdays when they start up. ESPN is going to carry all but one game. ABC will carry the Game 3, which will be on Saturday night. So they'll have all the games. TNT will have its very last NBA game starting up on Wednesday with the Eastern Conference Final between the Knicks and the Pacers. I got to say, Stephen, I said Oklahoma City was probably going to win. We both thought that maybe Cleveland and Boston would be the Eastern Conference Final, but instead it was New York and Indiana, which goes back to the 1990s when you think about the old Knicks and Pacers rivalry. And, of course, Reggie Miller will be at the mic calling the game, so it'll be interesting to watch that. But overall, should be quite interesting to see the playoffs play out. Oklahoma City extended to 7, kind of surprising by Denver, but overall, still still have to be a favorite to take to win the Western Conference, but Eastern Conference is pretty wide open, Stephen.
Let's talk about the West. Thunder, Timberwolves. Let's start with this. With this one. I have the Thunder winning in 6 games. I think this is going to be a very interesting matchup. For the Timberwolves to get past the Lakers and now the Warriors consecutively. They are well rested and they should be ready. But I do believe that. Anthony Edwards can carry this team on his back and lead the Timberwolves as much as possible. But I do think that Thunder is a little more deeper, starting lineup wise, as well as the bench itself. Alex Caruso was a difference maker today, coming in, wreaking havoc against the Nuggets today. How do you see this Western Conference Finals, in your opinion, Ken?
Well, again, I said it's the Oklahoma City Thunder Invitational. I don't see anyone in them. Minnesota, as you mentioned, is well rested. They were able to get past a completely hobbled Golden State team. Stephen Curry had a hamstring injury, his very first So he wasn't able to get back in time. There was talk, oh yeah, he's going to get back for a game 7. He never really, once you have your first hamstring injury, Steven, there's no really way that you're going to be able to recover as quickly as you'd like to. So I have to say that, to be honest with you, not surprised that Minnesota was able to run through Golden State when Stephen Curry got injured. I'm going to have to say, even though that Minnesota had a pretty much easy ride to the conference final, I'm going to have to say that Oklahoma City, I agree with you, is going to win this series. I think 6 games is conservative on that one. They could probably win this in 5 if they were focused, but they had a very tough series. They'll probably game 1. It's a good thing that it's a Tuesday night. They get a little bit of rest. They'll have home court advantage. They'll be in the Paycom Center. So in Oklahoma City, so it's luckily that's why you get home court advantage, is to get a game 7 and then be able to stay at home and continue on with the series at home in the Western Conference Finals. So I'm going to have to say that, I'm going to say that Oklahoma City is the favorite to go to the final, and 6 games I think would be right.
We mentioned about the Warriors, who were, after taking, I believe, game 1, lost 4 straight to the Timberwolves. Of course, largely due to the fact that Steph Curry was not available. It's going to be a very interesting offseason, for the Warriors. They have been kind of on the declines ever since, they won their last, NBA final titles for the last several years now. Kind of give me your thoughts on the future of the Warriors. I know Draymond Green was out of control once again with his shenanigans and everything. In what way would you try to fix the Golden State Warriors, knowing that they're getting older? They got a lot of their big time locked up in a huge deal. You're certainly not going to move Steph Curry. He's the face of your franchise, but I think there comes a point where enough is enough with Draymond, in your opinion. But do you think that the Warriors should be able to, or should move on from Draymond, or is this just his MO, and that the Warriors need him as much as he needs the Warriors, in your opinion?
I would trade him now. I mean, yeah, is he a Hall of Famer? Yeah, he is a Hall of Famer. There's no doubt. There's no doubt about when he spoke to Steven. There's no better defensive player in the NBA. But the problem is that he does stupid stuff, and he cost the Warriors throughout the series. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I know Bob Myers is now an analyst for ESPN, but you get Draymond Green at a point, knowing his baggage. You've got to. I would have cut bait with him a long time ago. I really would have. I just don't think that he adds. I don't think he helps your team. He hurts your team, and I know Steve Kerr has tried everything with him. You could just see that when Draymond Green gets another technical or does something stupid, he just turns his back because he's just exasperated. I would just probably say, all right, we know Steph Curry, we know you're older, but we know that you're the face of the franchise. You got to stay. But I would start looking to rebuild. I'm looking and getting rid of Draymond Green. I don't know his contract situation at this point, Steven, but if there's a way to trade him, although you're probably going to get 5 cents to the dollar for him because everybody knows you're going to get rid of him for a reason. But you need to find a way, because he's hurting your team more than helping right now.
I agree. With the Warriors, in addition to Draymond Green, you got to figure out, okay, what do we make of Jonathan Kuminga? What future does he have with this team? There have been some times where he's haven't been in the game late, when you need it. I think it's more so especially after they acquired Jimmy Butler, who helped revive the team. But I think the days of like the playoff Jimmy and all that stuff. I think that's way in the past, unfortunately. Jonathan Kuminga is probably one of the more tradable assets that the Warriors have on that roster right now. Maybe more so than Draymond Green. So the Warriors will have to figure out how can they stay relevant and be even more of a better playoff contender than that they are right now. I don't think they have the they can afford to blow up the team. I think that's just too much of a risk for their ownership. They're obviously a popular draw with the the Silicon Valley millionaires or billionaires, among others, especially in that brand new Chase arena that they built in San Francisco after they moved a few miles down south from Oakland, which obviously was not a popular move at the time and probably still isn't. But yeah, Warriors have to do to maintain their playoff contender status. They just can't be settle being a playoff contender. They have to be like a legitimate NBA final contender. As long as Steph Curry is still able-bodied and able to shoot, he's he's going to be able to carry the team. You've already parted ways with Klay Thompson. It's the end almost for the Warriors to maximize their potential. I think one or two of them is going to be moved this offseason for sure. Now let's move on to the East. Canada Pacers rival pretty very very deep. It happened 30 years ago, obviously. Next Pacers, we'll get team that they eat in a moment, especially Celtics. Boy, this is a very interesting matchup. I think that this is a physical game. I could see them this one going all the way to 7. If the game doesn't go on 7, I'd be completely shocked. And I hate to do this. I think they are a team that's on the momentum right now. You can rely on Jalen Brunson to carry that team right now through difficulties. With the Knicks such in hot hands right now with him leading the team right now. I think he's one of those guys who can definitely at the top of right now, who's able to carry the team on his back right now. Knicks in 7 for me. Ken, what do you say?
I'm going to go with Indiana. I think. I mean, as much as I think I hate the Knicks. Okay, the only time I rooted for them was against Chicago. By the way, Stephen, back in the 1990s, I didn't want to see so that's the only time I rooted for the Knicks. But I'll be honest with you, to see their fans are just unbelievable, Stephen. Yesterday they flooded the streets of New York after Game 5 win on Friday night, as if they won the championship. I mean, first of all, that makes you hate the New York right then and there. But then I just feel that Indiana, I think, has more experience going into this. Don't forget they beat the Knicks last year in the Eastern Conference semifinals. I would think that, and I know the Knicks are looking for some revenge, but I think so. This is where experience really comes in. I think the Pacers have it. Tyrese Halliburton is a guy that I really like to watch out there. So I'm going to have to say, and I know that Brunson is the most clutch player in the NBA. We all know this. He wants the ball. He really played extremely well in Game 5 against the Celtics to close out that series. But I'm going to have to say that I'm going to say Indiana will win in 6 games.
Okay, fair enough. No matter who comes out of the East, you still think it's the Thunder, right?
Yeah, at this point, I think Oklahoma City is going to take the series. I originally thought that had Boston gotten to the finals, it would have been a great final. It would have been a potential 7-game classic. But right now, I don't think no matter for me, no matter who gets out of the East, is Oklahoma City's a series and NBA Finals to lose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. For me, it's and Thunder win in 6 games, whoever it is, in my opinion. Out of no matter who wins the Eastern Conference. Now let's talk about the Celtics that was beaten by the Knicks. Their title reign is over. Very short one, and on top of that, Jalen Tatum, excuse me, suffered a horrific injury, and turned out to be, I believe, his ACL. Correct?
It was his Achilles tendon, so it was Achilles, not his
It was
ACL.
ACL. Okay.
It was an Achilles.
Okay. Okay.
It's still going to keep him out for at least a good part of next season. Achilles is a horror. The way he went down was just horrific. I have to say that it's also bad timing because the Celtics were just sold to a new owner. So and while Wick Prospect, current owner, is still going to be running the day-to-day operations for a couple of seasons, it doesn't bode well. So at your chance to come in. So I would have to say, Stephen, that the Celtics are going to be definitely in an interesting spot next season. You know, I think that while you thought that had everyone been healthy, they would be in for a good championship run. But now this may force the Celtics to do a little bit of thinking, especially for the draft upcoming now.
Mm-hmm. Tatum, basically, you could rule him out for the entire 2025-26 season, basically.
Just about,
yeah. Just about it, yeah. Even if he miraculously comes back, I mean, what is the point of putting Tatum out? For what purposes anyway?
Right. Right.
A couple of players, Al Horford, Kristaps Porzingis. Porzingis had a terrible, I think, health conditions that he really never figured it out. He was he only played 12 minutes in games 5 that they miraculously won. And he never really got healthy. Now, had he been healthy, would it have made it any difference? Well, I don't think
Probably
so.
not.
I think
not.
the moment that the Celtics blew a double-digit lead in the first 2 games, both at home, I think it was a terrible hole to climb for them. So I think that was pretty much, written in stone that it would take a miracle for the Celtics to come back. And Tatum's injury, unfortunately, didn't do them any favors, unfortunately. So, Jaylen Brown is a guy, who knows if Celtics decide that they want to, start clean. If you're a new ownership, there aren't too many free agents out there that's not, worth shelling out the money, at least anyway. There could be possibility that they decide to, I hate to use this word, but tank. We'll get to the tanking and the NBA lottery a little bit later, of course, but this is somewhat similar to maybe 96-97 Spurs. The year that David Robinson went down with a significant injury. The Spurs finished 21-61. They were one of those few teams who got really, really lucky historically in the NBA lottery. They got the number 1 pick, and they Tim Duncan out of Wake Forest, and the rest is history. Maybe the Celtics are probably in that mindset right now. This is an opportunity for them to reset the roster. Like I said, there's a couple of guys who are getting up there in age. Maybe they move Derek White to get themselves a salary cap space. They're going to have to make those tough decisions. And of course, the objective is winning. But, for a team like New York and even the LA Lakers, you always have to find ways to maximize your roster. But until you have got to the point where, you're just basically run out of, players, draft capitals to get better and help, and etc. So I think rather than pushing themselves down 3-4 years to do so, this is an opportunity for the Celtics to maybe reset the roster, maybe start getting a little bit younger for that next big title run for the next 5 to 10 years. I think Tatum is still young enough to come back from this injury. He's 27 years old. That's probably the best part in all of this thing about this Tatum's significant injury, that he's still young enough to come back from this. And I do believe that the Celtics have to really start thinking of looking into the future about maybe more of a long-term, contender. Maybe retool their at least, whenever Jason Tatum comes back in about 2026, 2027, presumably, this team will be a little bit more younger and maybe more athletic as well. And then, so I do believe that maybe Celtics have to decide that they want to take a mini tank for this upcoming season without Tatum, and just to see if they're lucky enough to land a coveted number one pick, whoever it might be available in the draft after this year.
I will say the fan base won't accept a tank. Knowing this fan base, they won't accept that. Where as far as the ownership, Wyc Grousbeck probably won't do that. So no matter what happens, I do think that the Celtics will just have to accept maybe playoff mediocrity, finishing 8th in the Eastern Conference, and then hoping that they can get something. I don't think they would tank to the point that they would go win 20 games, Steven. Maybe that they would try and maybe just miss the playoff, just barely miss it, but at least get to the 8th. At least they would try for that. I don't think the fan base will not accept a full tank like San Antonio did back in the 90s, and we've seen with other teams in the past to try and get the into the draft lottery. Boston is not that type of city, and the fan base they won't accept anything short of at least a full effort on the team. Now they've seen it with the Boston Bruins because the Bruins ownership is just horrific, but as far as the Celtics are concerned, they won't accept that. So but I do think that they would at least try mediocrity, try to make it look like they're going into the playoffs. But even if they don't, they'll have a full effort doing so. As you mentioned, Jaylen Brown is still there. Al Horford, I don't know about his situation, Steven. He's getting up there in age. The man he seemingly played the 18th century. He's that old. So he's played, I think, in like all these type of franchises. He's been great for the Celtics. We've all seen his sister tweet and defend him to the hilt. But I really think that it's time to fish and cut bait with Al Horford. And as you mentioned, Porzingis is just, I don't know what's wrong what's with him. As you mentioned, he just had a health situation that never got better. So I'll be honest with you. I think that, the Celtics have to probably think about those two players and saying goodbye to them in the offseason. But as a full-scale tank, the fan base won't go for that. And I don't think they would accept that. And I don't think Rick Rosenbeck would do that either. He's still running the team, even though that he's not the official owner anymore. So we'll see what happens there. But I think that they're definitely going to be very busy in the offseason, especially knowing that Jason Tatum is not going to be there for at least a majority, more than halfway through next season. I mean, it's going to be difficult for the Celtics fans to accept that, but they're just going to have to. The fact that they'll probably finish 8th in the Eastern Conference and probably lose in the first round next season.
Mm-hmm. Now let's move on to the NHL. One of our probably picks this probably pretty much off. Now that the Western Conference Finals has been set for the West, I picked Colorado initially to come out of this one, and I think we both picked Winnipeg or something like that out of this, but to make it to the out of the West. But Dallas beat Winnipeg, Dallas beat Colorado. Very impressive considering how poorly they finished at the toward the regular season. And it's Dallas who beat Winnipeg in 6 games. You know, a very physical, tough matchup. Really enjoy watching that Dallas team. They are finally hitting at the right time. You know, Mikko Rantanen has been a man on a mission right now. I think it's very difficult to probably stop the Dallas. It's Dallas versus Edmonton, a repeat last year. They met in the I think Western Conference semifinals. This year they meet each other in the Western Conference finals. Boy, you know, this is a very tough one. But I look at Dallas's momentum right now with Rantanen, you know, leading the way. I say that this is going to be a 7-game series. I think Dallas will win this one 4-3 over Edmonton. Ken, what's on the Western Conference final?
I'll take Edmonton in this one, Steven. I still think Connor McDavid and, of course, Leon Draisaitl are two of the best players in the NHL. Of course, you know, what really hurt Winnipeg was their goaltending. They had Connor Hellebuck, who just couldn't play well on the road. He did play well last night, but it's still, you know, it was you just really didn't know Connor Hellebuck was going to show up. In this case, Edmonton has a great goaltender in Skinner. Dallas also has one in Ottinger. It's going to be fun for this series to watch.
Right.
You know, I still think
Edmonton, the goals will be a premium for both teams for series.
Absolutely, and I think Edmonton will win this series. I think they'll take it in 6 games to go on. Now tonight, of course, is going to be Game 7 for Toronto and Florida. The winner will have the right to go on to the Eastern Conference Final. Carolina defeated Washington rather handily, 4-1, Steven. So that was kind of it. That was a little bit of a surprise.
Right. That was we both picked Washington this one. Yeah.
Yeah. So I still, it would really pain me to see the Toronto Maple Leafs winning Game 7. Now they absolutely had a very bad effort in Game 5. They were defeated 6-1 in Game 5 at home by Florida, but then they turned around and got a 2-0 win in Game 6 in Sunrise, Florida the other night. So there's some momentum there. This is especially after the Toronto media was saying, "Here we go again. Toronto's with another playoff choke, with another losing effort. There's no way they're going to win this." They had such a, but I have to give them credit. Austin Matthews, who has been much maligned and hadn't played very well in this series, scored a goal to put them up 1-0 in the third period after a scoreless first 2 periods, Steven. And that really lifted the spirits of Toronto. Toronto has a core 4, and of course they have them, Mitch Marner, William Nylander, and John Tavares. A lot of the salary cap has gone through those 4 players, Steven. I have to say that if Matthews plays extremely well tonight and leads them, Toronto could take this series. But Florida, they were the Stanley Cup. They're still the defending Stanley Cup champions. They have Sergei Bobrovsky in net. He is still a fantastic goaltender, even though he gave up a soft goal to Matthews on the other night. I still think they have the edge over Joseph Woll, who's going to be starting in net tonight. I still think that Toronto will lose this game. I think they'll. I want the Toronto Maple Leaf fans to suffer. They've been out in Maple Leaf Square out there every night, swirling their knuckles, everything. It sickens me to death. As much as I love the city of Toronto and the Toronto fans of the Raptors, and I feel sympathy for the fans of the Blue Jays. I hate the Blue Jays. I hate the Maple Leafs fans. They think they invented hockey. They think they totally. They feel they're the guardians of hockey. So if they lose in overtime tonight and suffer, I would be very happy with that, and Florida would go on to win. But I say Florida will take on Carolina, and with the bruised team, I have to think that Carolina can get to the Stanley Cup final. They're a tough team, Steven, and they're coming out of the Southeast. I think they could easily win this series against no matter who comes out of this series. I think Carolina, very well rested. I think they'll probably go into the final. I think it'll be a Carolina Edmonton final, and that would be absolutely horrible for TNT, which has the Stanley Cup final, because the ratings would be absolutely horrible.
I'll say Dallas, Carolina. Again, another American series. Obviously, um, a market that not many people a while back would never ever thought that the hockey will be accepted. Dallas moved from Minnesota, what was then known as Minnesota Stars, of course. But having lived in Dallas for a while, they love their stars.
They do love hockey.
Obviously,
I get that.
Yeah, they've really done a great job, not only being a contenders for a while. They've also been, firmly, entrenched themselves in Dallas. They've also been very, very helpful with the, introducing the game, youth hockey and everything. Those initiatives, a good job, establishing themselves from, maybe a grassroots level from the time that they got to Dallas. Carolina, of course, they left. They won a Stanley Cup in 2006. They had their share of ups and downs, but overall, I think Carolina does have a momentum of just finishing the Ovechkin and the Washington Capitals in such easy manner in 5 games. Now they're waiting for the Toronto, Florida winner to emerge, and basically watching this game at the comforts of their home right now. Carolina, I will pick Dallas to win. I think so is the Rantanen's effort is there. I do believe Dallas will win this in 6 games, in my opinion. Ken.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if we get to the final, let's say
Carolina, right?
Yeah, if Carolina, if it's Carolina and Edmonton, I'm going to pick Edmonton. If it's Carolina and Dallas, I'll pick Dallas. And if it's Toronto against whoever, I hope Toronto gets stomped. If they get to the final, I hope Toronto gets stomped in 4 games.
Okay, fair enough. Let's move on to the NFL scheduling. It was released this past Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
Both our teams have obviously at this point just basically brimming with the excitement and optimism. Just before the schedule, now that it's been officially released now. Ken, let's start with your Browns to start with. There are no regular season games been scheduled for you guys this year. My question is, were you kind of surprised just at how that the Browns were a single
we're having trouble with your connection, Stephen. Where
there are, right? Excuse me, what was that?
We're having trouble with your connection, Stephen. You're cutting in and out, so it's kind of difficult. For you're asking about the Browns schedule, if I believe.
Yes, Browns schedule, and then also there are a lot of primetime games. Were you surprised by the the actions taken by the NFL, or is this something that you kind of accepted because obviously Browns are not primetime worthy?
Yeah, they're. I was not surprised. I mean, they're going to go. I believe they're going to go to Europe. They're going to take on the Vikings in 1 game. That'll be at least a standalone game in the morning, but that'll be on NFL Network.
Yep.
But overall, no prime. I mean, just basically the minimum of primetime game. I'm not surprised, Stephen. This is a team that needs to show itself. They need to get flexed in if they show any type of life. Of course, as we mentioned, they're going to have their quarterback situation hasn't even been isn't even set yet. So we'll probably see Shedeur Sanders probably later on in the season. There's a lot of things with this team that have to be solidified before we even talk about prime time and getting flexed. So and you know what? This team it hasn't shown that they're prime time worthy, so I'm not surprised about this at all. They have pretty much a last place schedule, which they deserve. Uh,
Yeah.
and we'll see. We'll see. They for me to be convinced about that this team is serious. I mean, they have Joe Flacco coming back, but he's a year older. They have two rookie quarterbacks in Shador Sanders and the one that they drafted from Oregon. They have to convince me that they are serious. This team seems to be more interested in a new stadium outside of Cleveland rather than improving the product on the field. So, and in order for you to get the teams to get excited about a new stadium, you need to improve the product on the field, and the management does, and the Haslams doesn't seem to have done that. So I'm waiting to see that. Of course, they did have a pretty. I think it's a. If I have to give them a grade for the draft, I have to give them maybe a B minus over some of the picks that
Yeah.
they made. But we have to see how they gel all together. And so for them to get any primetime games, they gotta improve their play. And right now, I'm not surprised about the fact that they hardly have any primetime games, Stephen.
Looking at the schedule off the bat, you start off with the Bengals at home, then the Ravens, Packers, Lions, and then the Vikings. The trip to Ireland, I believe.
Yep.
Dublin, right?
Yep. They'll play.
So that's a daunting schedule to start off with. There's a worst case scenario that they could start off the season 0-5 if they're not careful.
I would be surprised.
The opening game, the Bengals is the one that really that they have to, that opening game could set the tone for the Browns in their first 5-6 games because it looks pretty daunting right now.
Yeah, absolutely, Stephen. I mean, they've got to do that. They've got to show the NFL that they can at least do something. They got to play the Lions too, which at in Detroit. That's not going to be an easy game. As you mentioned, the Packers they're going to be playing. They're going to be playing in Europe. The Vikings as well. They have the NFC North this year. So. And that's an improved division, Stephen. We all know you know
Yep.
that division extremely well. Of course, they got their two games: the Steelers and the Bengals and the Ravens. Those aren't going to be
the Ravens. Yes,
those are tough outs. So to be honest with you, those are games over there. They could easily be 0-8. In all of those games. To be honest with you, so or 0-7. So or in the first half of the season. So they really have to be really improved. So I'm not surprised that they're not in prime time. This if there were any of those games, Steve, were in prime time, there would be a nationwide revolt, and the nation would be absolutely justified in revolting against it to seeing the Browns in prime time.
Dolphins, Patriots, and then the Jets. These three games where they face AFC East. That to be some games here. Browns visiting the Raiders,
Right.
November 23rd. Then the Titans coming into the Browns. Those are like one of those few winnable games here right now.
Mm-hmm.
On the paper that you're looking right now, Ken, what is your kind of as of right now? What is your prediction for the 17 game schedule for the Cleveland Browns? Is it 5 wins, or do you feel like it's even lower than 5 wins right now?
I'm being optimistic, Stephen. I can see them being 4-13 at the end of the season. That's what I'm looking at right now. I can see perhaps beating the Patriots, the Jets, maybe the Raiders, and maybe perhaps I won't say they'll beat your Browns. The Bills has to be chalked up as a loss. So I would have to say at best they're probably a 4-13 team.
Okay. When do you see Shador Sanders starting for the Chicago Bears, if at all? I'm sorry, for the Cleveland Browns, if at all.
Yeah, if it happens at all, if Joe Flacco, I'm certainly and I'm optimistic. Just hope to see that Joe Flacco can teach the rookies some things while they're on the bench and guide them.
Mhm.
I think probably Shador Sanders will probably start a game, maybe a winnable game. So probably sometime in the second half of the season, maybe against the Jets, maybe against the Patriots. You have to give them. You don't want to throw them to the Lions, literally against the Lions. You don't want to throw them against a tougher team. So you want to be able to give them something that could, and also be able to make, I don't want to say dumb down the offense, but give him something simple that he can have a winnable game in. So I would think probably in the second half of the season, maybe against the Patriots or the Jets, maybe against the Raiders as well.
Okay. Moving on to my Chicago Bears. This is a pretty daunting schedule. They have probably the second most difficult schedule in football right now.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, we're playing the AFC North, including the Browns. The Bears will start off on a Monday night against the Minnesota Vikings. Prime time game. This is a very interesting matchup. Obviously, the reports came out from Seth Wickersham article this week that he and his father, Caleb Williams, that is, he and his father tried to circumvent the draft any means possible to avoid being drafted by the Chicago Bears. And one of the teams that Williams and his father tried to force themselves perhaps was the Minnesota Vikings, because Williams and their head coach Kevin O'Connell, KOC, really struck a relationship. His teammate from USC, Jordan Addison, was also on that team as well. So yeah, it was very, very interesting timing of the article coming out. And by the way, to touch on that article, I'm not really surprised about the Bears, that they didn't want to play for the Bears at all, because of their lack of history when it comes to not only drafting but developing the quarterbacks, with Rex Grossman, Mitch Trubisky, and Fields all failing miserably. So it was understandable. So now that the Vikings Bears matchup, the book and the article about how Williams and his father wanted to leave was going to be brought up multiple times throughout the game. This is going to be a huge matchup for the Chicago Bears. Ben Johnson's debut on prime time. I hope that the Bears can somehow beat the Vikings to start off the season on a good note. And then week 2, Ben Johnson makes his trip to Detroit to face the Lions. 2 games in the division to start with. And then the Cowboys game, week 3. This is a Fox America's game of the week. Pretty good game there. Las Vegas Raiders, they go to Vegas in week 4. And then they have a bye week, and week 5, kind of a bit early. And then, there's a good conspiracy after the bye, and they face the Washington Commanders this time on the Monday Night Football. And we're going to hear about it. It's like basically a deja vu. Last year, they play the Commanders. They lose the game in Hail Mary. We're going to hear about that, not only leading up to the week, but also throughout the game about the Hail Mary. This is a very important 5-game stretch for the Chicago Bears as well. And then they face the Philadelphia Eagles, the defending champions in Philadelphia, on Black Friday. So that's going to be a very interesting matchup as well. With the on December 14th at 1 p.m. in Chicago. Who knows what our team is at this point. And then the Packers, 49ers, and the Lions to finish out the regular season. Being optimistic as I am, my prediction is that right now I would say 10-7 will be the best outcome possible, and hopefully they will be in the playoffs at 10-7 out of the very, very difficult NFC North, in my opinion. Maybe that's the floor. With the ceiling, I would say maybe if the Bears are lucky and if the teams come together rather quickly and the offense is as good as advertised under Ben Johnson, maybe 12 wins wouldn't be so far-fetched, in my opinion, Ken. So, I'm just trying to remain optimistic about this upcoming season. the fact that the Bears got Ben Johnson is a gift. Um, I'm not really too concerned about the drama for Caleb Williams in the book that was coming out later this year by Seth Wickersham. Um, any quarterback or any parent would be like, yeah, we want to try and avoid the Chicago Bears any means necessary. Um, Kudos to General Manager Ryan Poles for convincing Caleb to come to Chicago, and then convincing him that this is a place I can play. I want to change history. That's a great mindset by Caleb Williams, and of course, their head coach Ben Johnson is also not afraid of taking on challenges and facing difficulties themselves. Hopefully, those two men will work together very, very well from the very get-go, and then just help Chicago finally end their mediocrity out of where they are for the for the good past 5-6 years. It's about time. This isn't a team that is on the rebuild. This is a team that is ready to win now, and I just hope that the Bears will start winning games when it really, really matters the most moving forward.
Yeah,
Ken, go ahead. I apologize. What do you?
yeah,
What
and
say?
another thing too is that the fact is that the NFL wants to see a team do well in Chicago. You also have that
Yeah.
you mentioned that Bears Packers game late in the season. It's going to be in
Right.
it's going to be
One of them is in Chicago. That's the Christmas game, I believe, the day after. That's
yeah,
a
you also
doubleheader. They have Washington, Philadelphia, and then now
yeah,
it's
that's a
basically
Saturday.
Chicago, Green Bay, Chicago.
Yeah, that'll be a week 16 doubleheader on Fox, Steven. And I believe that should be, if everything goes
Yes.
well, that could be a primetime game for you on Saturday or a late game. They'll probably have a 4:30. The Eagles game will probably
Yep.
be, it might be the primetime game. But if everything goes well, if the Packers and Bears are doing extremely well, Steven, in the North Division, and that's for first place,
Mhm.
I could see that Fox scheduling that as a late game in Chicago. That would be a lot of fun, especially you know fans,
Absolutely.
especially like seeing a cold weather game in December. So especially seeing the breath coming out of off the lakefront. So that's going to be interesting to see. So that would be fun too. Um, so I think too, and not only that, you also have the Bears and the 49ers, as you mentioned. I believe that is going to be, if I'm not that's a primetime game as well. So
Tonight,
that
football.
would be a Sunday night game. If those teams are still doing well, that would probably be that's a Sunday night game. Would probably not. If there's one of the two teams that's not doing well, that will probably get flexed out. But right now, that is a game that NBC would love to have. Both teams doing well, two big market teams, one in the Bay Area, the other in Chicago. Again, the NFL wants Chicago to do well. They're tired of Chicago having mediocrity. So, and it would be great to see Chicago contending in the NFC North.
Absolutely. Ken, obviously, it's a slow week sports wise. So let's get to our final word. I know we're almost close to being an hour right now. Ken, I'll give you the floor for the final word or final words. Do you have anything that you would like to add regarding the world of sports that's been on your mind recently?
Yeah, one thing I want to mention is that I'll talk about your interestingly enough what's happening with ownership and this idea of trying to build stadiums outside of their cities. Chicago, of course, is talking about this too. The Bears looking outside, they're looking in Arlington. They finally put that proposal together, Steven, for a mixed use facility. Cleveland is doing the same with theirs outside the city. So it's interesting to see how this is happening. I'm a little bit worried about seeing all this because the ownership, what is the whole idea behind the mixed use facility is behind it is try to circumvent taxes and try to make money on their own. Now, owners have the right to make their own money, but I think also at the same time you're also depriving fans who have in the cities and taking those teams out of the areas where they should be playing. Now, I know some people say, well, look, The Giants and the Jets play outside of New York. The Buffalo Bills don't necessarily play in Buffalo. They play in Orchard Park. The San Francisco 49ers play in Santa Clara. But that's all because they got tax breaks to do it so, and they're able to and they're all trying to do their own facilities. So I think that this is not a good thing for fans. I think that the mixed-use facilities, it's a way for them, owners, to try and to circumvent the fact that they're trying to get their own land. The Bears have bought the land in Arlington for the reason is to try to develop it on their own, and the same thing for the Cleveland Browns as well. So I'm a little concerned about this, Stephen. I know we talked about this in the past on our show, even when we were back over on part of Aldo Gandia's network as well. So, but I think it's something that fans should be a little bit concerned about, especially when they're outside of the city and you're used to playing in the city, and it's good. It's something that it should be worried about. So I think that's something that we have to keep an eye on, and hopefully we'll be holding the owners accountable in regards to this, Stephen.
Absolutely. My final word is a couple of things. One, that was 2 weeks ago, Sundays 2 weeks ago. I watched the phenomenal boxing matchup between Naoya Inoue, which in many experts has him ranked in the top 3 pound for pound best boxer in the world, regardless of the weight class. He got a little bit of a scare against the Ramon Cardenas. He got knocked out in the second round, which was kind of a shocker on its own. But then from there, Inoue just completely took over, went into a slugfest, and beat Cardenas in the 7th round. I thought it was kind of a early stoppage, in my opinion, but nonetheless, Cardenas really gained a lot of respect from many boxing fans. I know Inoue thanked Cardenas because the slugfest historically brings out the best in him, and then it turned out to be just that. Really great boxing matchup. Really made it up for that was a horrendous boxing weekend that was leading up to it. We touched on the 2 weeks ago, the boredom at the Times Square that really that was top boxers just basically running around circles from each other. You had Devin Haney, Lopez, and Ryan Garcia, and those big names that was just basically did nothing to, Timofeo Lopez, I'm sorry, really brought nothing to the table, of course. And even the bigger one was the Saturday in Saudi Arabia. Canelo Alvarez was there, just not the same boxer that he probably once was in terms of, action ability. He faces Terrence Crawford in September, most likely again in Saudi Arabia, like maybe 5 o'clock in the morning their time, to accommodate maybe American fans. So now, Inoue's slugfest kind of really, saved the deal on the boxing world for me. And then the other thing, of course, this is certainly a topic that maybe need a little more discussion at another time. Ken, is the I don't know if you've saw any of it, but the Latino fans at the MLS Nashville just basically was not there because they're worried about being targeted by ICE. And the owner, of course, for the Nashville FC or SC, whatever it was, he was a huge Republican donor to the Trump campaign on its own. JD Vance, in a task force meeting for the World Cup next year, joked about many fans from foreign countries being rounded up and being sent to like another country, and that kind of just buffoonery and just stupidity that we've unfortunately have expected from this administration right now with the treatment of the immigrants, etc. the release of the statement that was released by B.J. Callahan, the former USMNT assistant under Greg Berhalter, now is the head coach of the Nashville FC, was really, really pathetic, and really didn't do anything to elevate any concerns right now. With the World Cup just a year from now, Ken, with the way that things are, in this country, especially with the soccer, and then the Olympics that's coming up in 3 years. I just feel that the U.S. is in heading in the wrong path, and the MLS, especially with the strong support from the Latino communities, and a lot of the players that currently play, or at least maybe in the future, they're all come from a Latino family background as well. The dual citizen players,
Right.
that is expected to play for the U.S. Teams moving forward. Also on the youth level as well. And I just kind of find it really, really disheartening about the whole situation, in my opinion. You got anything you want to add to that, Ken, or would you like to bypass and maybe wait for another time on that?
No, I'll quickly say this. It's something that I'm worried about as well, Stephen. The World Cup is going to be coming up, as you mentioned, in about a year from now. We at this time we should be running into the doing a ramp up to it. But as you mentioned, with a lot of fans coming from foreign countries, it's going to be difficult for them to come in, to be honest with you. And the cities have not heard from people.
Nobody
So
wants to come at this rate,
right,
unfortunately.
right. And the Olympics in 3 years, we don't know what that situation is like. There's some people saying that they should take the Olympics away. That's not going to happen. But I will say this, that if there are people who are from foreign countries who want to come here, I don't think they're going to be welcome. I know the people of Los Angeles and the host cities, would welcome the foreign fans, but how they're going to get into this country, I really don't know, and that's something that has to be worried about. I did see that there is a question in the. I'll just really. This is not a hard question. The answer, Matt, is no. Al Michaels is not going to go to Fox. Joe Davis is well liked by Fox. He's their number one announcer for baseball. He also has formed a great team with Greg Olson for the number 2 team. Al Michaels is on the verge of retirement. Why would Fox go older? They want to get younger, so this is not going to happen. So pretty much, the answer is no. Anyway, so that's it. That's all I have to say.
Well, on that note, let's put a bow on this another show. Thank you very much for 120 people for watching this live stream. It's good to be back again after a week off, and a well-deserving week off, obviously, with the month and everything. So, Ken, thank you so much for joining me once again. Hopefully, we'll do this again at 7 p.m. 6 Central once again next weekend. We should know. Hopefully there will be more things to talk about, and we'll keep on scouring some interesting topics, or maybe there will be something that's interesting news that will certainly be provided by the world of sports as well. Ken, thank you once again, and I look forward to seeing you next Sunday at 6 Central to do this live stream again. Have a wonderful week, everybody, and we look forward to seeing you next Sunday, same time, here on the Double A Team. Ken, any final words?
No, that's it, Steven. Right now, Toronto and Florida are tied 0-0. Late in the first period, there's about 3:54 left to go. So both teams have had some great opportunities, but both goaltenders have stood up big. So Game 7 in the Stanley Cup playoffs, tremendous action, and once again, attention convention. So fun to watch. So. But we'll see you again next week, and hopefully we'll know who's in the NBA. Or actually, we probably won't know at the time next week by this time who's in the NBA Finals. There'll still be a Game 3, and same for the NHL.
I think it's too early. But
yeah, too early. But we'll have an idea. We'll talk a lot about those conference finals all next week.
All right. We'll see you next week. Till then, have a rest of your weekend. Take care, everybody.
Good night.